Hello, folks, and welcome to day 5 of my 100-day project. We are halfway through the window, the first 10 days, where I'm focusing on acrylic ink. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was not feeling it today. I had a busy day. I was really tired. I just I had this idea I was going to do a self-portrait, and just when I came upstairs, I just wasn't feeling it. So I was like, all right, let me do something that kind of makes me happy. So I picked, again, I'm just picking the limited colors that are in front of me. And my palette that I chose, typically I do a primary palette, some form of red, some form of yellow, some form of blue. And I strayed from that today. And I'm wondering if part of that could be why I struggled a little bit. So the colors that I chose today were very limited. I went with indigo, which is the dark, looks almost black, that brilliant yellow, phthalo green, and then that purple color is a Sennelier color. It's got some white in it, and it is like a periwinkle blue color. It's a pretty color on its own, but yesterday I was talking about how transparent colors you can mix and they really don't get muddy on you. But if you mix colors that have opaque pigments in them, like this periwinkle that has white, they can get muddy on you. And I fought with that pigment on that flower. I didn't use that paint very much, just a little bit on the cheeks. You'll see me add it in there. But I really fought with that flower because it just got super muddy super fast. And then I was impatient, so I didn't want to let it dry all the way, which I could have done. And then that would have helped because I could have layered over it and brightened it up again. But I was just pushing through. And the irony is I went longer. So I kind of told myself I would do 15 to 20 minutes each day on these projects. Today, I went like 30 minutes because part of me, well, I got into it, number one. And then number two, I I was fighting with that flower. But you saw me hold up the brush there. And what I was showing was, again, these inexpensive brushes can splay. The the bristles can splay. They don't hold together to a nice point. And sometimes that's really cool and you can get some interesting marks. So around her eyes, where I was adding in color around her irises, it wasn't a really smooth line. It was kind of a raggedy line, and I really like that. So I was just pointing that out. So I'm getting some shadows in here. I was working, even though I spent a while on this, I was working pretty quickly. So it's very, very wet. And when you're using acrylic inks and you draw with them, like I did for her hair and the outline of the flower, and even the yellow that I used to sketch her in, it takes a little while for that to dry. And so I'm working on other parts of the face while I'm waiting for that to dry. And this is kind of like my go-to face when I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. Her left eye is a little wonky. It's a little bigger than the right. Her right side of her face is a little wonky, but it is what it is. I'm just kind of going with it and getting to a point where I feel like I can walk away. And often that's how I determine when something is done or when I'm ready to take a break, is when I've gotten it to a point where I can walk away. I will often say in my classes, the difference between a painting I love and a painting I hate is time. And that really is true for me. Not that I won't walk away from a piece that I don't absolutely positively love. I have several pieces that, I'm like, it's okay. It's not my best, but I'm ready to move on. So I'm not saying that I don't do that, but I will know when I have done all I can for a piece, when I get that feeling that, like, okay, I can walk away. And you saw me a few minutes ago tilt up the the paper, I'm working on this watercolor block and give it a bit of a tap. And you'll see me do that again here. And that's one of the ways where I felt like it needed something, like it was just sort of kind of going along. Something's not working. When I'm in the middle of working on a piece and I get that feeling that something's not working for me, often I will do what I call a big move, which is I'll just make a big mark, or I'll cover something up, or do something dramatic. And that will invariably turn that piece around, partly because what was there before is now altered. So I can't ever go back to what was there. But also because it just kind of takes it in a new direction. If I find that I'm really married to a part of my piece, then I'm limiting myself for really taking it to the next level because I'm stuck on wanting to preserve a certain element. And if I know it's not done, I have to be willing to walk away from that element too. And so those big moves are often what I do to kind of knock me out of it, because then can't go back, can only move forward. What I'm doing here is trying to mix up a light neutral color. So in one of those wells, I took a drop of every ink color that I used, and my intention was to get a grayish color, and I was working on that. And I was also working on trying to get like a nice sort of light color for her irises. And I really struggled with that. And I think it was that purple pigment with that white in it. It really, I just couldn't get the vibrancy I was looking for. And I ended up mixing some white with that phthalo green by itself to get like a nice, really pretty kind of light minty green color. And it just took me a while to build that up because it wasn't dry. And so that white paint, that titanium white, I need to bring up the Rowney one. The Liquitex one that I have up here, it's just not as opaque as I would like it to be. And so I kind of struggled with that a little bit as well. So you'll see me kind of go over and over and over. And as I did that, her left eye kept getting bigger and bigger because I'm trying to layer that in. And I'm using brushes that are really big. Like that brush is my broken brush that's, I think, a size 6, maybe 8. And then the Simply Simmons brush, the white handled brush, that's a 10. And then I brought in a flat that's a 5/8 inch that I think I used in the background or something like that. I really didn't, maybe in the flower. I didn't really use it much for her face. But I'm using pretty big brushes. So that contributes to things kind of getting a little squirrely sometimes too. Darkening up her eyebrows, I did all the sketching in that yellow color, which was actually really great as an underpainting. And it kind of gave some highlights and some texture in the different areas. So I like that technique. Often I'll sketch with that indigo, but I think I might do this more with that yellow or light color. So here I'm trying to get that muddiness out of that flower, trying to add some brightness in there. Kind of getting frustrated. So here I'm like, okay, here's my big move. I'm just going to let that dark center of the flower just bleed down on her face. And then to balance it, I added some of that dark indigo to her eye and let that come down. And that really opened things up for me. I think at this point I was like, oh, okay, I really like her now because she had something to say. She was interesting to me. Before it was just, I felt like I was kind of going through the motions. So, and again, fighting with this flower and trying to do what I can, putting in color, lifting it out. That grayish color that you see that I added is actually that color straight out of the bottle. And for whatever reason, I don't know if maybe the pigment started to settle, but I couldn't get that vibrancy back. So I'm throwing in some of that phthalo green, which is just such a beautiful color, adding more of that indigo to try and get it a little darker. I don't have a super clearly defined light source here. The left side of her face is a little bit lighter. The right side's a little bit more in shadow. And as I was working on that flower, it became clear to me that that was something I hadn't really defined very well. And so I add a little bit more shadow to the right side of her face to try and bring that light out a little bit more, in particular, the corner of her eye. And I'm like, she didn't have a neck. Let me try and give her a neck. So pretty much right now, I'm just letting the other parts of the painting dry. So I'm working on adding some different background. I'm not really loving that neck, so I'm going to soften that out. But you can see how vibrant that phthalo green is. It's such a pretty color, but it's very strong. So a little goes a long way with that one. Freshening up the bright spots on her eyes, getting a little bit of highlight in that flower again. I think I smudged part of her nose. There was some dark indigo on that glass pen that came off there. And I probably could have left the flower where it was right before I added that mark. But I kept fussing with it. I kept trying to get that bright purpley color back. Sometimes you just got to leave it. So adding in some of that phthalo green to brighten it up. See, straight out of the bottle, I'm still not getting that vibrancy. Scratching in, trying to make some marks, give it some interest. And one of the things I'm noticing, you can see how flat that flower is. So here I go back in. Let's add some yellow. Let's do this. Just trying to do anything. And I'm going to add, you'll see me here in a second, I'll add some more shadow to the corner of her eye and try and get a little bit more depth, realizing that I don't have a really good defined light source in there. So I'm adding a little bit more yellow to the left and getting more of that dark on the right. That shadow in the corner of the eye just makes all the difference, I think, with faces. You can do a readable face with nothing but that shadow, and it will read. So darkening that a little bit. I do go back, and I may have done this off camera. I darkened her upper lip and neutralized it. Like from here, you can see her mouth stands out quite a bit, partly because it's fairly large for her face, but it's that pure bright yellow color. And it fights a little bit with the rest of her. I don't want the focal point to be her mouth. And so I added a little bit of that purple color to her top lip to neutralize it. So here's where I use that purple color to its advantage, and that was neutralizing that top lip, and that brings the focus back up more to her eyes, which is what I wanted. There we go, day 5 in the books. Thanks for following me. Hope you are well, and if you are doing this project, I'd love to see what you're working on too. Thanks, bye.